What we want to do now is build out these marts models. So let's finish up with the warehouse and reporting layers and deploy those through dbt. Now what we're going to do here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time walking through the query. I'm just going to copy and paste because we don't really need to spend that much time on just watching me write SQL. But I'll explain to you what the SQL looks like and kind of how it's all going to work together. And these queries will be attached to the course as well. So starting with the warehouse, I've gone through and added all of the models that we're going to do here. Again, there's only a handful, so it's not too much. We have DIM Avengers, and as we can see here, each of these are going to follow that same kind of look and feel of a DBT model, where we start with the import. So in this case, it's just one from our staging layer. And notice we're using the ref here, like we mentioned a little bit in a previous lesson. And the ref is going to then make a connection under the hood between this model, DIM Avengers, and this other one that we built. So one in the documentation, and it's going to create a lineage between the two so we can visually see that these are connected. And two, it helps when we run our models. It creates dependencies so we can decide if we want to run everything before this and after. It knows which ones are dependent on each other. So it's really important to use the ref here. And then again, we have our final CTE, and we're just selecting. Nothing really special here. Same thing with DIM movies, except this time we're bringing in two different ones, but the same process is being followed. Bring them in, select from final. And notice we're not really renaming anything here because everything is named correctly from the staging layer. There's nothing more to do at this point. We have movie voting. It says a fact table. And then the other one here is Avenger activity. And this one I wanted to just call out quickly because not only are we doing in this one the normal imports that like we're talking about, but a lot of times what you'll have, you're not just going to pull straight through. You're going to have some sort of custom logic. And a lot of times it'll make sense to break that out into its own CTE. So a typical workflow for that would be you bring in your imports. So maybe you have 1, 2, 3, 5, however many. And then once you're done with those, you have a section for the custom logic. And maybe you have a new column here that's based on some counts. Notice again, we're bringing it in once and then we're using it here. And then this is aliased down here, and we can join it all together the way that we want. Imagine you had a handful of these custom logic CTEs. You can group them together and just start to think about the workflow. But notice also all of the naming is the same with the lowercase and the underscores. That's up to you to decide how you want to handle the naming, but this is what I am used to and what I would prefer. Then lastly, we have the schema.yaml, where I've put the names of all of the different models in here. Again, we're not really doing too much with this right now, but in the future, you could add tests, you could add documentation, and this is just a way to see what's in this area here. Now before, remember we said we wanted to materialize these as a table, but we haven't actually seen that run. So let's go ahead and run these models and get them into our warehouse. So we'll run the command dbt run. So this ultimately ran successfully. We can see the tables here, created tables for each of these. It did take a little bit longer because again, it's both creating and inserting all the records. So also we can see it deployed to warehouse, which means it took the correct custom schema here. Let's go ahead into Snowflake and take a look. This would be an analytics dev. Now we see warehouse here, and it has our warehouses. So now we're building this out. We have our staging models, and we have some warehouse models. Just imagine how quickly you could build this up now with this tool. Next, we'll do the same thing with the reporting layer. So I'll copy and paste these in, and then we'll take a quick look. So now we have the reporting models added. I have two. One called Avenger Details and one called Movie Details. And if we look at them, again, same workflow, same look, except this time they're pulling from the fact and dimension tables. Same here, fact and dimension. And we've added a schema for this as well. I realize this is not a very intricate or impressive analytics architecture with these, and they're not really making a whole lot of sense, but hopefully you still get the idea of how this is working. So what we'll do this time is run all of the models, but instead of running them just dbt run and all of them together, I want to show the power of this ref function and that it can see the dependencies. So we'll do dbt run. We'll use this selector model to pick a specific model, but instead of just saying the one model, what we'll do is prefix it with a plus sign, and that means it's going to figure out all of the dependencies before it. We'll do RPT movie details, and then do the same for RPT Avenger details. So we would expect this to figure out all of the dependencies because of the way we've designed this with the ref, and it kind of puts all that together. That's one of the great features of DBT. And so we can see here, it's starting all the way at staging. The staging feeds into warehouse, and then warehouse feeds into the reporting models, and they all work together. It looks like I have a typo here. So let me fix this real quick. Film year should be movie year. That's a copy paste error. If we wanted to just run this model now to fix it, this is probably a fairly common scenario. We could just do this. We could just isolate this model to get that to rerun. And again, because it's a table, it's going to rebuild the table and insert completely. And now this was successful. So you get to see that as well here. Let's go look in our Snowflake environment. We still have all the warehouse. Now we have reporting, and we have our two reporting models. So we can see this here. All of this data has flown all the way through, and we've done all this very quickly with DBT. So what you should do at this point now is, again, create another branch, check in your changes, and go through that process to kind of get the muscle memory of that. In the next section, we'll take a look at using the targets flag a little bit more, and how we can then move this from our analytics dev to now working more specifically with production.